So when I first got my gimbal, I was really excited to start using it, get super cinematic shots, make my own little movies, and do all this fun creative stuff with it. And really, once I got it, I had to figure out how to set it up, how to use it, how to do, X, Y, and Z with it. And I was super excited about it, although it was a bigger beast than I had realized, and I was a little bit just taken back by that. And so because of that, when I first got my gimbal, I wasn't even really using it that much, at least as much as I had hoped to. I was actually still shooting some stuff handheld, getting the footage back or seeing the footage afterwards, and then just being like, wow, I just wasted my money on this gimbal. I'm not even using it, and this footage still looks shitty. I need to figure out a way to actually make this work. And so I went on YouTube, I found a few tutorials, and just figured out a little bit more on how to get the setup process for the gimbal, the DJI Ronin S, a little bit faster so that I could set it up, in 5 to 10 minutes rather than figuring it out and hassling over it for like 10 to 20 minutes every time I do it. And really, yeah, it just took a little bit of practice, a little bit of trial and error. And after I figured out how to get this setup done perfectly, then I really just started using it a lot more. And yeah, it's just benefited me a lot. So in today's video, we're gonna be going over how to set up the DJI Ronin S. And we're gonna be using the Sony a7 II. But really this process and setup guide works with any camera that's, compatible with the DJI Ronin S and in the weight limits for this gimbal. So let's just go ahead and get into it. When you get started with your DJI Ronin S, you're going to want to open up the box and just get familiar with everything that's in it. First, when I looked at it, I was a little bit confused because there were so many different little parts and pieces, little screws, this, that, and the other. But really, once it's all broken down, you should be fine. It's not too much to worry about. So first things first is the tripod base mount. This is one of my favorite pieces of the gimbal. This will help put it flat so you can even use it as a tripod, but it's also super helpful just for setting the tripod or setting the gimbal up and stabilizing it and getting it balanced and everything like that. So this is the tripod mount, and also I guess it's just an extra hand grip because it does combine down at the bottom, and you can use it as a little extra arm. So the next piece is the actual battery and the main hand grip, and this is the main power source for the whole entire gimbal, and it's also where you're going to be holding your gimbal from most of the time, because that's right above it is where the whole menu, I guess you can call it, and the joystick is. This is perfect. Just a really good setup and design for usability, and yeah, it's just super user friendly. And on the right side of that menu kind of aspect sort of console, you can see also the power button, and then there's also a focus wheel adapter and things like that for other attachments and add-ons. The next main piece is the actual gimbal with all the different axes. You can see it's a little bit of just a little bit of a hassle to carry it around before it's all set up and everything. So just set that off to the side, and then we'll get into that in just a second. Another piece that these three last pieces are all small, but they're all notable, and you're definitely going to need them and need to know about them. The first is the mounting plate, which is going to go on the bottom of your camera, similar to how it would with a tripod or something like that. So you're going to put the mounting plate onto the bottom of your camera with one of the screws that they've given you. I just use a key. Usually you can use like a flathead screwdriver or anything flat to tighten it all the way. This is just going to secure the mounting plate to your camera. The next is the actual mounting, I guess, / sliding plate. This is the slider that connects your camera's mounting plate to the gimbal itself, which is just going to make it easier for when you want to slide your gimbal or your camera on and off the gimbal. So this is super convenient. It's annoying to put on, but it is really convenient for when you need to just take the camera off the gimbal, grab it on, use it as handheld, and then slide it back on real quick. So I do, appreciate that design aspect. And then the third piece that I had mentioned is just this little lens stabilizer that they had included. It attaches to that sliding plate that I just mentioned, and really you only really need to use it for bigger lenses that might have a little bit of, you know, jitter to them. But I like to use it on all of the lenses just because it makes for a more stable, secure setup. And really, it's not that, you know, sturdy or anything like that, but it does get the job done. So now that we have all the pieces and we know what everything is, we really just, it's just a little beast that we need to tackle, and we need to put it all together, get it set up so that you can be using your camera how you normally would, but now with smooth, stabilized footage like you intended to use it for. So when you first open the box, you'll probably notice your quick start guide and the, you know, just your setup instructions and everything like that. And that is helpful. Although I will say I breezed through it, and I still wanted to go to YouTube, find a video on how to do it perfectly, this, that, or the other. The next thing you'll probably see in the box when you first start out is the power cable. It's just a simple power cable. I don't even know what it is, but it just connects to your DJI Ronin, and you can use one of your, you know, iPhone blocks or something like that. It's just a USB plug. Just plug it in, charge it up. Takes about 8 to 12 hours to charge fully, but it will last you, I don't even know, maybe 12 to 16 hours, pretty long. So you can really use it for a while. So that's another big benefit out of this. So now that you've seen all the different pieces of the actual gimbal, let's get into how to set it up to make it look like a full setup where you can go and shoot with it, right? So how I like to start really is with the tripod mount, just to make it a lot easier. Then you can set this down, you can prop it up. So this is basically, I like to look at it as an extra grip for when you're actually shooting with it. But yeah, in terms of for setup, this is the easiest to set it up like this with, you know, a little bit of a wider setup. That way you can get everything else on it. So the tripod base mount attaches to the battery hand grip, and you're just gonna screw it in like you would with any, tripod. Let's see if I can get it. And once you screw it in, it's just gonna make everything a lot easier. Then you can easily attach everything from on top of here rather than trying to do it all on the ground. So now that the bottom tripod mount is attached to the actual hand grip battery, let's go ahead and put the actual gimbal onto the battery and mount it up. So you can do this just by sliding it into, you know, the battery mount and then locking the side lever. And then obviously you're gonna have a little bit of trouble with the arms just because they're all over the place right now. Just try and contain them as best you can. In the meantime, we're gonna put the mounting plate onto the camera. Like I said before, you can use a flathead screwdriver or a pair of keys to just tighten this screw all the way. Doesn't really matter which way this plate goes, but the next plate will matter. So now that the first plate's on, go ahead and grab the sliding plate and attach that to the base plate on the camera and tighten those screws as well. You're gonna wanna use both screws for that part just to make sure everything's in securely. If you're using a large lens, make sure to use the lens stabilizer attachment. That will really help you out. It's adjustable too, so it can go, you know, up or down depending on how big or small the lens is. And now that you have that all set up, the next step is to actually slide the camera slider mounting plate onto the DJI Ronin. You're gonna make sure that the lever is unlocked on the axis where you're gonna put your camera. So once you can get that in, just go ahead and lock it kind of in a center point, just based off of how it looks, just so it stays kind of stable, and then we'll get into how to stabilizing it after that. Now that you have your camera attached to your gimbal, we're gonna go ahead and stabilize it. And this is one of the hardest parts about setting up the whole gimbal. Obviously, putting pieces together is one thing, but really getting the actual gimbal stabilized and balanced perfectly so that you can use it is, at least at first, one of the hardest parts. Once you get in a groove with it and you get comfortable with the gimbal and how it works, then it's definitely a lot easier. But when you're first starting out, it's just daunting. It's super annoying, and it feels like just a real tedious step when you get to a set or get on shoot and you have to deal with that aspect of it. So let's get into how to setting it up. Super simple, and you know, make it an easy process. So for me, how I like to go about it usually is I like to get the camera attached on with the mounting plate, and then slide it all the way to the right where the mounting plate is. Slide that all the way as far to the right as I can, because the closer it is to that right bar, the more stable it's going to be. Once it's locked over there, just go ahead and tighten that screw in the back on this sliding plate for the camera itself. The next step is the roll access, which is on the right side of your camera basically. And you're gonna wanna point your camera straight up towards the sky. And basically, if your camera is, leaning back towards you, if you're standing behind your camera, if it's leaning back towards you, then it's a little bit top heavy, or if it's a little bit back heavy rather. But if it's leaning towards the front, if it keeps falling down face forward, then it's top heavy. So really, you're just gonna have to balance that, find the right spot for it. Once it's in the middle, it will just point straight forward, or straight up rather, just straight towards the sky, straight towards the ceiling. And yeah, so once you have that one, the roll axis set up, then you should be good to do the actual camera itself on, the main mounting plate. And really, this one's kind of tricky, but it all comes with how, it all comes with the lens and how big it is, how much it weighs. And really, you're gonna wanna just hold the lock lever on the left side of the camera and kind of play with it back and forth. I will say there's a lock to take the actual base plate out of the camera. So if you do accidentally drop it forward, it's not just gonna fall off of your gimbal, it will stay there. But just be wary of this just in case, because you don't wanna break your gear. Once you have your camera balanced to a good middle weight for the base plate itself, then you're gonna wanna go to your tilt axis, which is on the back. And for the tilt axis, it's actually, this one's relatively easy. You can really just tell if it's leaning too far to the left or if it's tilting too far to the right. Then you gotta balance it so that, the bottom of your camera is parallel with the ground, so that your image is flat and how it should look. The last one is gonna be your pan axis, which is basically the bottom one, which in my opinion is another tricky one, and I still don't really fully understand it. But most times for me, it balances perfectly if you have kind of the middle weight of your camera based directly over that pan kind of screw. Sometimes I'll bring it too far forward or too far backward, and it doesn't really look like the camera's off balance, but in terms of usability and maneuverability, it will help to have that based under the middle weight of your camera. So now that you have it set up and it feels like it's kind of in a good spot, one way to test it before you actually turn the gimbal on and test the stabilizer and do a balance test with the DJI Ronin app, you're gonna wanna just play around with the camera. And so, yeah, you're gonna wanna just play around with the camera and see kind of how it reacts. And if it's, all over the place, then you're definitely not stable or really even close yet. But really the true test is to just see if you can point it somewhere and if it stays. And if you can point your camera just anywhere and it just stays there, then it's basically set up, and you can go ahead and do your balance test to make sure that it's perfect. So yeah, even just looking at this, I can just point it somewhere, change it up, point it somewhere, change it up, point it somewhere, and it stays where it is. That last one didn't, but you can really change it up, point it, shoot it, and do whatever. So once you have the gimbal actually set up and it looks like it's pretty stable, just by looking at it with your eyes, you're gonna want to download the DJI Ronin app on your phone, just so that you can do a quick balance test, get everything connected, and then you're good to start shooting once you set up the modes and everything like that. So go ahead and get the DJI Ronin app on your phone. And really, for me, it was super simple. You're gonna want to turn it on. You're just gonna need to turn the battery plate on first, and then you're gonna turn it on next to the joystick. There's another power button. You're gonna want to do that one second. And to connect it, you go into the DJI Ronin app and you just hit connect. It's a big square button at the top. It's not too hard to miss. And for me, I thought I was gonna have to look up how to do it, this, that, or the other, but really it just connects pretty automatically, like a Bluetooth device or something like that in the area. And ever since, mine has just kind of been paired together. And so after you get it connected, you're gonna wanna do a balance test. Go ahead and get onto the app and just do a quick balance test. So once you get to the balance test on the Ronin app, you're gonna go ahead and see that it makes you point it at a 15-degree angle, just so that they can do the test with it through the app. And once you have it at about a 15-degree angle, go ahead and hit begin test. And the DJI will just perform a Ronin or a quick balance test on its own through the Ronin app. I think this is a really good benefit and perk that they add to it, because it just helps to get set up and make sure you're gonna be good. It's not like just a thing to question, is it set up right? Is it gonna look right in post and everything like that? So it takes about 10 to 15 seconds, sometimes a little longer, but you'll get a quick result analysis. And for me, it says tilt excellent, roll excellent, pan excellent. And I'm just gonna hit okay. Now I'm good to go. Just looking throughout the rest of the Ronin S app, you can see your battery percentage. You can, if you go into the top left corner on the far right, there's a little 1 button. This will show what mode you're in. You can change all these up, change the speeds, so that way you can do 3 different mode settings and change the motor speeds, change the different types of preferences you have for each mode. We can go into this in a different video. I think this is a little, that's a little bit down the road once you figure out how to actually use the Ronin S a little bit more. So another thing you can do that I think is actually pretty cool is use the virtual joystick on the Ronin app, which it always gets people going, because it's just like a little remote controlled camera type thing. You can just use your joystick just like you would be on the camera, but it's just on your phone. So I think that's super cool. You can even turn the motors up, change the smoothness and the speed. So it's super fun. I just think once you get it set up, once you figure out how to balance it and everything, it's really all about learning movements, learning how to use the different modes and settings to their best abilities that they can. Because when you first get it, you might think that it's all about, oh, now I have a gimbal, now I can shoot all this smooth footage and make all my videos look that much better. But at the end of the day, it's about what you're creating and what your ideas are. If you don't have ideas to use this tool to create with, then it's just gonna be an expensive, fun piece of equipment. So make sure that you're always being wary about how you're gonna use the equipment and not just why you're gonna get it. If you don't have any real reason on how you're gonna use it, maybe just think twice about getting it. So for me, the Ronin S really has helped me in my work, just make my footage look a lot more high production value, a lot more professional and official, I guess you could say. It helped me up my creativity also at the same time. Really, before, when I was shooting handheld, there were lots of times when I couldn't get the angles that I wanted to. I couldn't get even the specific shots that I wanted to. For a perfect example, when I was shooting handheld before, I would always have the goal to get, a nice intro scene of somebody walking in somewhere and have it get their feet and just super close to the ground. Super simple shot if you have the right equipment. But I always struggled because it would always be super shaky, out of focus, this, that, or the other, because I was doing it handheld. And this is actually the first, that was the real first benefit that I saw from it, was just being able to get those angles that they seem so easy in all the content that we're watching on TV and YouTube and Instagram and all over the web. It seems so easy to get shots like those, but if you don't have the equipment, it was just, for me, it was really difficult to get those simple shots. And now that I have the Ronin, I'm able to get, shots that are close to the ground, shots that are above me, shots that are just out of my handheld reach. And I think that's just a super big benefit on top of the whole stabilized footage that you'll get out of the Ronin S. So yeah, the DJI Ronin S has really helped me out a lot in my short filmmaking career so far, and I'm excited to see where it can take me in the future and what else I can make with it. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and comment. We're gonna be making some more tutorials about the DJI Ronin S, some more advanced things on the menu settings, some gimbal movement tutorials and things like that. So make sure you leave a comment if you have any other specific ideas. But other than that, thank you for watching and have a good day. Peace out.